Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, put your hands together for the world-famous Harlem Globetrotters! Battle of the Network shows. Join Rick Brooks and Mike Kogel as they explore the TV of the 70s and 80s through hand-picked episodes of their favorite and not-so-favorite series.
Welcome to Battle of the Network shows. I'm Mike.
And I'm Rick. Hello, everyone.
We don't have cool nicknames. We should have some cool nicknames.
Yeah, maybe we should.
I have to think on that. That comes up because this week we're going to be talking about the Harlem Globetrotters. Kind of one of those, a little bit like the HBO episode, just a broad look at them. But they were a big deal in the 70s and 80s.
They sure were. Yeah, and I think in our sweet spot,
Yeah.
the kind of the late 70s, early 80s, they were a real phenomenon.
Yes. Did you ever? I saw them at the
Yes.
Omni in Atlanta.
Ooh, at the Omni, the historic Omni.
Yes, I don't remember anything. I
Yeah.
just know we went. And I probably had already seen them on Wide World of Sports and knew the gag. I'm sure it was all the same gags
Yeah.
that they were doing for 50. Probably, I believe by the time this airs, we'll be into their 100th year, right?
Yeah, I think their official start is 2026.
Or 1926.
Yeah, 1926.
Yeah.
Their official start.
So we're also celebrating their 100th year.
Yeah, there you go.
We're part of the centennial.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I saw them probably not real young, but I think I saw them before, I moved down here. But I also think I saw them probably it was in this century that I saw them.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So yeah, and it was fun. It was kind of like the circus. They come in like once a year,
Yeah.
entertain people, then they go out and go to other places.
Yeah, how much do they still do a lot of the comedy stuff, or is it?
Yeah, it was like as I recall, it was a while ago, but it was like the comedy spots and mixed with actual basketball.
Yeah.
I think and a lot of like similar spots. Now, from what I understand, I mean, the one thing is like the Globetrotters that we're talking about in this era, it's a little different to me. It's like they're like stars and they're sort of like their own thing, whereas more now it's like everything else in the world. It's more corporate. I went to their website earlier just out of curiosity, and it's like they got a partnership with a ticket company, and all this, and it's nice, but it just there's like a sameness to it. It's just not the same as it was.
Yeah.
And even back then, I think it was, but because they didn't feel corporate at the time, they felt like this cool team of guys that always hung around together, and
No,
they were the Globetrotters.
I mean, they're riding around the country in a bus with a dog and an old lady.
Yes.
Or riding on the Love Boat with some sketchy manager.
Yeah.
Promoter.
Like from what I understand, they were like in the early days, they were much more improvisational, and then as the years went on, it became more of like standard routines, partly for their own use, and probably some of it was they didn't want to disappoint the audience that
Yeah.
was expecting some of those routines.
Right. And I mean, in the early days, it was pretty much just pure basketball. I mean,
Yeah, they started out as just like a basketball. Yeah.
highly skilled basketball, but yeah. And I guess the comedy came in. If Brian Gumbel and Jim Lampley are to believe, it came in the 60s as, once the NBA got integrated, and they had to do something to compete.
Yeah.
Differentiate themselves.
Right. There was something else I saw that I mean, and there's a lot of the Globetrotters history is, it's there's legend and stuff and things like that. But I think there's also the story that they kind of did a little bit of that to save their legs. I think that's more kind of the legend of.
Well, I mean, the fact that a lot of these guys played into their 50s
Yeah.
might back that up.
Like it was kind of a way to slow things down or whatever and sustain them in the travels. The truth is probably a blend of all that sort of thing. And even their origins are a little murky. Like I read a very good book about them called Spinning the Globe, and that was written, probably about 20 years ago. But it says, there's some disagreement over some of the details and things like that. And Abe Saperstein, who kind of created the group, he was into, promotion and self, mythologizing and everything like that. So he didn't necessarily have a vested interest in telling all the details the way they were.
Yeah.
But they have a rich tradition, and both of us have just always known of the Globetrotters as being a thing, and even now they're still a fairly thriving act.
Right.
Well, very very thriving act. They do international tours. The one thing that I think is still true now, the one thing that I was really shocked about is that there were, and it seems like that went way back more than I would have thought, is that they had multiple groups. So there was never like just one Globetrotters, contrary to what you'd see on the cartoons.
Yeah.
There were always like 2 or 3 units. There'd be like sometimes there'd be a European unit, like there'd be an East Coast unit, a West Coast unit, and they'd all be going simultaneously around the country.
That would be disappointing, though.
Yeah.
If you went expecting to see Curly,
Right.
who was my favorite,
Yeah.
for no reason in particular, just was, and he wasn't there. I mean, what?
Yeah.
Did they have another bald guy?
I don't know. He was very photogenic.
Yeah.
Very charismatic.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and the one thing too is I noticed like they're playing when I was looking, they're playing like they're playing like Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
They're like the big arena in every city is where they go usually. So.
Right, yeah. And I think somewhere, because there's one of these things where you generated a big YouTube playlist for us to look at. You know, there was some ad for the New York area, and it was like 2 things in Madison Square Garden, and then 2 things in that little region of New York and New Jersey. They were hitting all the big spots there.
Right.
You know, like the circus, kind of covering the region while they're there.
Yeah, and again, kind of like maybe like the circus, it's kind of the act that you don't necessarily want them to be overexposed.
Yeah.
And it's probably best to see them like once a year. Which is interesting though, because you know you mentioned like they were on Wide World of Sports. They were like a fixture kind of in the 70s and 80s. You know, they'd show up like once every year or 2 at least, I think, and doing like those routines and things. But I guess at a certain point, it was better to get the publicity and keep the name out there than to worry about like overexposure or giving away something on TV that you'd want people to go pay to see.
Yeah, and I imagine, and maybe even when I saw them as a kid, there was that other aspect of like, well, okay, at some point there's going to be a confetti bucket, or you're anticipating the gags that you've seen. So that that's not bad either.
Right. I mean, the routine of it, the routines of the routine, is part of it. Yeah, that's part of the deal.
Now, watching these clips now, I'm like, some of that stuff made me laugh, but I'm pretty much just engaged by how good they are at playing basketball.
Yeah.
Handling the ball especially. But and it's funny that I know whatever the story is, that the gameplay is real and the gags are not, but that the competition is maybe not quite as up to standards, but they do occasionally lose. But when I was a kid, there was a sense of like, well, of course they're going to win.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the same kind of like reaction that a non-wrestling fan would have to wrestling, or there wasn't. I don't think there was anything on their part of like trying to hide the fact that they're probably going to win.
Yeah.
They were always, it was always entertainment.
Right. But it was legitimate.
Or exhibition entertainment. Yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, it's like there's like both teams are playing to win.
Right.
But at the same time, obviously, there's got to be cooperation in order for the Globetrotters to literally stop the action to do clown around with the referee or whatever.
Right, and they must know it's going to happen at these points. And, and clown around with the other players sometimes.
Right.
And sometimes get into altercations. I thought that was weird. Like for a thing that's ostensibly for kids,
right,
to a certain degree, there would be sort of play fighting a little bit.
Yeah.
But then in some of those players, one of those things, there were guys on the other team like taking what would be 3-pointers today without jumping and making them.
Yeah.
And Curly was doing that too. Globetrotter. I'm like, what is?
Yeah.
And they were like it was whatever they call it, a push shot. It wasn't even the form people use today.
Yeah.
It's like from low and like I'm like how. What?
Yeah.
That's really impressive stuff.
I do think up until when the NBA came in, that changed things because you could get paid good money for playing basketball and being good at basketball. But for a while, it was like actually like competitive basketball, and the Globetrotters were, the most talented team out there. Or they could at least make the case to being the most talented team out there. They start out, they had these competitions that were like, there was the New York Wrens, it was like another touring. They had other touring teams that they weren't unique in the sense of barnstorming, but they promoted themselves in a certain way and became like, built themselves as the best. And eventually they did prove it. It took a while for them to work up to that though.
Yeah.
And then they beat the Lakers, the early Lakers, the Minneapolis Lakers, like in like 48 and 49, and that really kind of established them as not as legit. I think they were already legit, but that was like their apex as like a competitive basketball unit, I think.
Right. And pre-integration, those kind of league, that was the only way black people could really play.
Yeah, and I think, and that's another interesting dynamic too that I've seen, mentioned several places, is the whole thing of like you're going out there and you're showing up a team, and maybe in a rural area, white players, but audiences did respond to it, positively. They liked it, but I think at some point they had to be careful probably about certain things that they couldn't do too much. But and just the whole element of like you want to beat them, but you don't want to beat them too badly because you want to have a rematch next year or whatever.
Yeah, I was a little sad to learn that they aren't from Harlem.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not surprised.
Yeah, they're more from the Chicago area. Did you see? There's a couple of clips I put in that playlist, and I think one is mislabeled. But there was a competing group called the Harlem Magicians.
Right. Yeah.
And I think one is mislabeled Harlem Globetrotters.
It's one of
it's,
the
I think
magicians
both of them are
on
the
Ed
magicians.
Sullivan. Oh, both of them are.
I think both of them, because there's a guy with like one arm who stands out, and he's in both those clips. And I noticed like the first clip, there's no actual introduction with. They're not introduced as the Harlem Globetrotters, and based on the uniforms and like the way they're doing things, I think they're both the Harlem Magicians. But
Okay.
that's another thing. They spawned many imitators over the years, often by former Globetrotters.
Right. The magicians had Goose Tatum and Marcus Henry, right?
Marcus Haynes, yeah.
Haynes, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a whole other thing is, in like talking about the Globetrotters, they didn't really compete against themselves because they covered so much territory of these units, but they also had these other imitators and they would litigate against them. But calling yourselves the Harlem, regardless of legitimacy, that was pushing it. Calling yourselves the Harlem Magicians, using the Harlem phrase.
Right. And then there's the other. So those were both on Ed Sullivan, and then there's a 3-minute game between the Globetrotters and the Ames brothers.
Yeah, singing act.
With Will Chamberlain.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they won, too.
Yes. Yeah. Who's a rare loss for the Globetrotters.
But the best part about it is Ed Sullivan calling basketball.
Yeah.
2.
He blew the shot.
Yeah. And at one point, something happened. He's like, what?
Yeah. Who do you like better as a play-by-play guy, Ed Sullivan or Howard Cosell?
Well, Howard Cosell, but it was cool. The Howard Cosell is there was just something so, I don't want to say charming exactly. There's something about it because it's like him on Battle of the Network Stars where he's chuckling at things and he kept calling Meadowlark Lemon. First of all, him saying Meadowlark Lemon is cool. Yeah. Meadowlark Lemon. But then the meadow, and for some reason calling Geese Osby the geese. The geese. What?
Yeah.
Curly. I've never seen Curly Neal this good.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like when Howard Cosell was in sports, he was like very self-serious. But if you put him in anything like an entertainment environment, all of a sudden he becomes like he wants to be part of the show.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like totally goes along with it. It's a totally different guy. Like it's funny how delighted he is and like just laughing along with it. And
oh, here comes whatever the referee's names were.
Yeah.
A real pro.
He's like so respectful of the whole thing, but yet also like playing along with it and putting them over, really. Yeah.
And also occasionally like teeing up here comes the under the shirt or whatever.
Yeah, just it's a totally different Howard Cosell. But they were a fixture on Wide World of Sports. Although apparently they started in the '60s on CBS. Was where they first started making those appearances, and then it was in the '70s where they really became. Yeah,
that one is in a pretty small gym too. It's in Arizona somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's on a military base or close to one, but so everyone's reasonably close up, and these kids are delighted. I don't know, some of them why they seem too young to understand what's happening at all, but they're having a good time.
Right.
Which Howard keeps commenting on too.
Yeah.
The thing that frustrated me growing up is, of course, that they would cut away.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to see that, and then they would cut to weightlifting or something.
Right.
Like no, go back to what.
Yeah, that was an interesting approach they would take on.
Yeah, and this one had like cuts to like weird filmed bit. One unintentionally disturbing filmed bit, but. I didn't. You had a couple of longer ones that I didn't watch just because I ran out of time.
Yeah,
was a little exhausted with.
Yeah,
that's the thing. You watch that and you see all these, and then you see shorter versions, and like, oh, there's that. That was like 1970. Mm-hmm. Then there's some kind of like a newsreel thing, maybe from Europe or something.
Yeah.
It's in black and white from 10 years earlier, maybe, and they're doing all the same.
Yeah.
The thing with the trick balls and the stuff.
Like the weave. And, what's unfortunate is, like, a lot of some of that newsreel footage and stuff is the only footage we have of that era of the Globetrotters. And some of their greatest players, you don't have a lot of them just because, it was too early. So, like, some of those legends, like Goose Tatum and Marcus Haynes, they were more really the pre-TV era. And then you get into our era and they become not just a sports act, but TV stars, and that's one reason I wanted to put samples of different Globetrotters games in there too, because it's really the way they were presented in them as TV stars that fascinates me as much as them as a basketball and as a live performing act. And again, they were everywhere. We in the place we had commercials, cartoons, guest shots. I mean, you want to kind of talk about some of?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So they had 2 cartoons. The 1971, just the Harlem Globetrotters, which then came back in the late '70s. So that's, I remember watching it then. Mm-hmm. And then I think the next year They had the Super Globetrotters.
Yeah, Super Globe. Yeah, they came back, and then '79 was the Super
Yeah,
Globetrotters.
and I do. I believe I want to see this because one of them was part of a, and they also appeared on Scooby Doo, of course. So one of them was part of one of those.
It was ours.
Yes,
it was. It was the Super.
Is it Super Globetrotters?
The Super Globe. It was the Globe. They might have called it. They used the Super Globetrotters cartoons, I think, and they called it like the Godzilla Globetrotters Adventure Hour. I think this is another Fred Silverman thing, and I think he was the one that brought them to CBS, and he was the one that brought them to NBC.
Yeah,
the Globetrotters. But
is it NBC or is it ABC?
Super Globetrotters was on NBC.
Oh, okay.
The first one I think was CBS.
Yeah, okay. And then the repeats were on NBC.
But they were on Wide World of Sports on the ABC.
Yeah, they're everywhere. And then, of course, the other thing we can talk about is the Harlem Globetrotters popcorn machine.
Yeah, like a variety show.
Yes. An educational variety show.
Yeah, very interesting. Saturday mornings.
Which I don't remember at all, and I doubt many people do.
I think my only exposure to them was just seeing them in comic book ads and reading about it.
Yeah.
I don't think I watched it at all as a kid.
And I know it came up on here once before for some reason. But so let's start with the original cartoon. So I watched a couple episodes of that, and first of all, let's see who the team was in this one. You had Scatman Crothers as Meadowlark Lemon, Stu Gilliam as Curly Neal, Johnny Williams as Geese Osby, Richard Elkins as J.C. Gibson, I believe he's the big man, right? Eddie Rochester Anderson as Bobby Joe Mason, proving to dopes like me that the Rochester voice was not his real voice. Clearly. Robert Doquy as Pablo Robertson, who's the short guy. And then Granny, white old lady in a cheerleader costume who drives their bus.
Yes.
And of course, Dribbles, the really anatomically weird Doug.
Yes. Granny and Dribbles were not part of the real-life Globetrotters act. They were created for the show.
Yes. So it was a Hanna-Barbera. For some reason, I had gotten in my head it wasn't, but was a Hanna-Barbera. But somehow CBS owns the distribution rights.
Yeah, it was co-produced for some reason. So that one's harder to find. Yeah, exactly. But it feels very much like Scooby-Doo.
Yes, it's very much in the vein of that whole era of Hanna-Barbera, Scooby-Doo, and Josie and the Pussycats.
Mm-hmm. Just like shots of them running, like the style of it and everything.
Yeah, I think, so every episode, they go somewhere to play a basketball game, and then there's some sort of conflict, and then they kind of solve the conflict through basketball. Yeah. And they're always down at the halftime and then come back. And I'm sure they reused a lot of that footage. Although, some of it looks like stuff they did. And I like the caricatures, the designs of the characters.
Yeah, character designs are good. The voice work is entertaining.
Yeah, and credit where it's due for 1970 that most of those actors or all of them are black.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's a good point.
I guess really there hadn't been many black characters in cartoons, period, at that point.
Let alone a whole cast of them. So that was groundbreaking for the time. Years before, Fat Albert.
Yes, and they all have sort of vague personalities. I don't know if, other than Meadowlark being in charge, I don't know if it's anything based on anything in reality, but I would think if you were Bobby Joe, you might not be thrilled with the depiction of you as a slightly slow country bumpkin or whatever he is. I don't know.
And I don't know how much they got paid for this either.
Right.
Lori and I were talking about that. I know later on. Well, that's one of the reasons why these Globetrotters left. Some of them is because they wanted to cut more of the merchandising and things like that.
Sure.
And I don't think that really became a thing until later. So I'd imagine this was kind of like
at this point, someone had. Avery Saperstein had died, and someone had bought it. And I know Metro Media eventually bought them for a while.
Yeah, they had different corporate owners for a while, and then a former Globetrotter bought them and kind of turned them around. I think in the 90s, Manny Jackson, and then he's in the Real Sports segment you referenced earlier, and he was apparently like a brilliant businessman according to the book I read, and he really simplified it. But one of the things he did was he brought a lot of guys back in the fold and emphasized like the alumni association and then the history and everything, and made it feel like a little bit less just like a corporate widget, and kind of made it emphasize them as a team and everything, and the personalities and everything. But I don't know how much these guys got paid, but they weren't doing the voices,
right?
Which is weird. In this
at least some of them are talent. I'm sure Meadowlark could have done his voice.
Yeah. Now, I was going to bring that up. In that early cartoon, Meadowlark is not playing himself, yet he's credited in every episode as one of the voice cast.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking maybe he did a couple of spot voices here and there. And
or maybe there were some kind of live action
Yeah.
interstitials or something.
Like audio from games or something, or
Yeah. The other thing that happens when they play the game, there are like songs that play. So it's sort of like, I guess Scooby Doo kind of did that, right?
Yeah.
But it would just be the Scooby Doo song.
yeah,
But it's a little like the songs with the cartoons with bands.
right.
Only it's basketball instead. But I thought it said who did the music. It's someone.
But they don't advertise that on the show, right? It's supposed to be sort of like implied that it's them singing.
Yeah. Which, as we know from the popcorn machine, they can.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's it's about as fun as any of those Hanna-Barbera cartoons of
Yeah.
that ilk are.
Probably best in not seeing a bunch of those in succession.
Yeah, I
Because
saw
they're
one
from
involving
Lake.
hillbillies and one involving a kangaroo.
Yeah, I saw the kangaroo one and one football, which was very reminiscent of it. They actually had a football sitcom comedy called Where's Huddles. Hanna-Barbera did.
Okay.
Right around that time. So it's like, oh, this is kind of weird that they're doing this, because just a lot of like the look of it and everything reminded me of that. But yeah, I mean, I think you've seen one, you know what you're going to get.
Yeah. But the popcorn machine,
Now, this is fascinating.
it really is. So, yeah, 74, 75? Something?
Yeah, I think it started out like as there was a special, like a prime time variety special that did very well, very big ratings. And I think maybe a year or two after that, they kind of retooled it as a Saturday morning show.
A whole, like a full squad. Not just a starting lineup, but full squad. I lost track of who's. But it's when Marcus Haynes came back briefly, and I mean, he was already like probably in his 50s, but still very skilled. He's credited with inventing a lot of ball handling stuff that they did, and later pros and stuff have picked up, behind the back stuff and between the legs and all that kind of stuff. And he is amazing.
The whole move about his like going down to the ground,
Yeah.
and maintaining your dribble while you're like on the ground.
Yeah, like you have a clip of him getting inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame when he's like 70, and some of the other older Globetrotters are there, and they're all in their shirt sleeves and ties, and
Yeah.
and he's still doing it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
He seems like a really cool guy,
Yeah.
just based on his little speech.
Right.
But so I mean, the clip you have, is that like a kinescope or something? It's like black and white.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
The full episode about
Yeah.
ecology.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the source of that is, but I was like, wow, this is cool to
Yeah.
see a full episode of this.
So it's them, Avery Schreiber, because it's the 70s.
Part of the cast, yeah.
And Rodney Allen Rippey,
Yeah.
who I honestly wasn't aware of until, I don't know, fairly recently. I professionally saw something about a documentary or kind of show about there was that black-owned toy company in L.A. in the 70s, and they made, among other things, they made like Red Fox dolls and Jimmy Walker dolls and Rodney Allen Rippey. I wasn't quite aware, we're too young or weren't around for that phenomenon.
Yeah, he was a child star.
Yeah.
Precocious child star who had like a big. He was very hot for a while. And he kind of like famous for being famous at a certain point. Him and like Mason Reese was kind of like I think they were but they were two like child actors that you knew that it wasn't destined to last. And they tried, I think, but but he was a regular on this show.
Yeah.
Kind of the cute kid. But it was a Saturday morning show, so totally legit to have a kid on there.
Yeah, so it's a little bit, I don't know, Mickey Mouse Club, a little bit like there's a bit at the beginning and end where Tex leads them in a spelling thing where they hold up signs and spell out whatever the Globetrotters oath of the day is. And Rodney's along for that, and then they do little sketches and musical bits. And
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
Avery Schreiber is some sort of heel, but it was very kind of vague, at least in this episode.
And Tom Bosley.
Tom Bosley, like I got up and was doing something, and I just heard it. Well, I'm like, Tom Bosley.
Yeah, yeah. They did like this whole Robin Hood sketch there's a lot more variety in here than I expected.
Yeah.
I thought, well, maybe they'll just be like one, but there's a lot more different kinds of things, and trying to stay consistent with the message about ecology. But there's a lot going on in a half-hour episode.
Yeah, the song and dance numbers and tuxedos. And tails. And
there's the one clip, you see the clip that's in color, it's just a clip, but it's basically them rapping.
Yeah, yeah.
They're all introducing themselves in 1974 with like a little rap song.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Not a ton of basketball.
No.
I think Marcus Haynes maybe gets a segment every time or something, or
That
that something about him teaching people? I don't know. He definitely had one in this episode.
But it does seem like this is the one regular project they had where it wasn't always building up to a basketball game.
And my own frustration I had is the main set is there's a bunch of basketball goals hanging in the background, and I kept wanting people to shoot baskets, and they never did. Because I'm sure they're not, built for that.
Right.
But, it's Globetrotters, do something.
Yeah.
But I found it kind of delightful.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, and it was designed. It wasn't designed to showcase them as individuals so much as a unit. But they did a very good job of that. And it's like, hey, this is like a cool. And it was like a nice, like they say today, it was like a nice hangout vibe.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
And learn something.
Yeah, I could see myself watching that if I were of age at the time. I would have watched that every week probably.
So then the Super Globetrotters.
Yes. And
a few years ago, you got me DVDs of this, which is probably when we started thinking about doing this. Well, maybe even sooner, because mentioned, back when The White Shadow was on Hulu, and we discussed that. The one episode missing was the Harlem Globetrotters episode, where I think Coolidge thinks about dropping out of school to join the Harlem Globetrotters. Now, my imagined version of that is not only does Coach Reeves talk him out of it, but they tell him, come back after he goes to college. Because it seems like part of the vibe of the Globetrotters by then was, education.
Mm-hmm.
And, they probably wouldn't take a high school dropout.
No.
Anyway, but the Super Globetrotters, which I do remember watching, they're superheroes. And apparently it's almost a complete ripoff of another Hanna-Barbera cartoon, The Impossibles.
Yeah.
Which I don't remember ever watching, so...
Yeah, there was a 1960s cartoon and kind of a cult following, but I don't think they were on in reruns as much probably at the time as like a lot of other Hanna-Barbera stuff was.
Yeah.
In fact, it was probably, for a long time, it was probably easier to find like what you'd think of as like the Scooby-Doo and stuff like that, but some of those like adventure and superhero cartoons for Hanna-Barbera, maybe they'd be packaged together, but
right.
I don't remember them being on as much.
Like some like Space Ghost and stuff they brought back,
right?
And Herculoids and
yeah. So those are the kind of ones that I think would be bundled together sometimes. But
so yeah, most of them are their powers and stuff are rehashes. So the team here is Nate Branch, Scatman Crothers, and he's the de facto leader this time, who's called Liquid Man because he can turn into water, but he has an F on his costume because it was Fluid Man on The Impossibles. And they couldn't change that. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
But as Wikipedia says, even down to the inexplicable F on his chest.
Yes.
Curly, and this is one of the ones they added, his head turns into a basketball. I am not quite sure what, and he can turn into a ball and bounce around, I guess. He can pull in his limbs, but the episode I watched, he didn't do that.
Right. That's easily the best of all the powers and characters, in my opinion.
It's a cool design.
Awesome as a basketball. Yeah.
Yes, and he still has his soul patch.
Yeah.
As a basketball.
That's right.
Twiggy Sanders, James Twiggy Sanders, is Spaghetti Man, and he can turn into spaghetti, basically. Like a stretchy dude. And that's one of the reworkings. Sweet Lou Dunbar is Gizmo, and this is one of the new ones, too. He has a magic afro full of whatever they need.
Yeah, devices out of his afro.
Right. Keith Osby is back, and he's like a multiple man turned into Multi-Man is his nickname, and like various characters who can duplicate themselves. And then there's also the Crime Globe, the satellite voiced by Frank Welker, who gives them missions. And I guess that's based also on something from The Impossibles.
He gives them a lot of flack.
He does, yeah.
He has kind of a contentious relationship with him.
And he gives them answers.
Yeah.
Tells them what play to use sometimes. So, yeah, this is also a watch one.
Yeah, it's kind of like Scooby-Doo, and I mean, the superpower element makes it a little different. But yeah, I mean, again, it's very formulaic, and
they stop villains with a combination of their powers and basketball.
Right. I don't think they had a ton of those either. I think they like a 13 of these.
I think
probably
so,
too.
yeah.
But paired with Godzilla,
right? Yeah,
there's a natural flow there, so
yes.
it makes for a much more pleasurable experience.
Right. Yeah.
But again, it's interesting, in just making them TV stars as superheroes.
Yeah.
It's still having them, kind of revolve around basketball. Kind of interesting thing. Now, I remember it being on. I don't think I watched a ton of it when I was a kid. I remember watching the Godzilla cartoon more, I think, than the Super Globetrotters.
Definitely remembered it. And I guess I remember. The only one, like Liquid Man, that didn't stick with me, but Curly turning into basketball.
Yeah. And
the multiplying thing and the spaghetti and the afro. Yeah. But it's amusing in its way.
And I didn't really watch The Impossibles as a kid.
Right.
So
So now their other big appearance Globetrotters. I didn't get a chance to watch, but you did, right?
You're referring to the Gilligan's Island?
Yeah.
Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
Which was the third Gilligan's Island movie.
Wait. Oh, right. There was Escape.
Escape, Return to Gilligan's Island, I think.
Right.
I think Return might be where they... So by this third one, it's established that they're operating a resort on the island.
Right.
I think in the second one.
With
maybe.
Thurston Howell the Fourth or something.
Yes, David Ruprecht playing the Howell child. And everybody's in there except like Jim Backus. I guess he was going to be in it, but he was in poor health. Mm-hmm. He does show up at the end kind of for a cameo. So he's in the credits.
Yeah, different gingers, right?
Described in... Yes. Tina Louise did not show up for this one. And it's an interesting movie. And unlike some of their other appearances, including one I'm sure we'll get to, this did revolve, not all, it was mostly about the castaways still, but the Globetrotters are like kind of a major part of it. Mm-hmm. But Martin Landau and Barbara Bain are the villains in this one, and they discover an element on the island. I guess Martin Landau, when he was on the island as a tourist, happened upon this cave and discovers an element that he calls supremium, which is the most powerful element in the world. And Barbara Bain is like a scientist named Olga, some shady background possibly, who discovers like all these uses for it. So the idea is to chase everybody off the island so that they can have the element to themselves. And of course, it ends up in a basketball game where the Harlem Globetrotters are facing off against robots.
Of course.
Invented by and controlled by Martin Landau.
Of course.
I mean, you could see that coming right from the beginning.
Oh, sure.
But it still plays out in an entertaining way.
How did they get there? They just come to the resort?
Well, so in this one, it was interesting is Scatman Crothers is like their manager coach or whatever.
That's confusing.
So he's in there with the real Globetrotters.
Yeah.
And Meadowlark's not in it. It's Curly, Sweet Lou, and some of the others, but not Meadowlark at this time.
Maybe it was after he...
Yeah, I think he was on the outs with them at this time.
Already, he left in like 78, 79 or something?
Yeah, formed his own group.
Yeah.
And I think, so he was not part of the team at this point. But yeah, they're just like, their plane goes down, which I think Scatman Crothers is flying the plane, apparently. I guess they're traveling lean and mean to save money or whatever. So they wash up on another part of the island.
Oh, okay.
And then Gilligan discovers them, and it's national headlines and everything. And then it turns out like these guys that, did this whole bit where Gilligan's trying to tell them, hey, those guys look just like the guys I see on the others. Gilligan, not now, and why didn't you tell us, that kind of thing. There's a lot of that in the movie. My big takeaway, though, was there's something a little sad about, because most of the cast is noticeably older, which is fine,
right.
But they're still doing kind of the same shtick.
Right.
Strangely enough, Lovey looks about the same age.
Yeah.
And the other one is Marianne,
Yeah.
who's probably one of the youngest to begin with. And Marianne looks almost exactly the same.
Right.
But there's just something a little bit sadder about seeing Skipper and Gilligan. Yeah. But, Skipper still looks to the camera every now and then. There's a scene where they're playing the Globetrotters before the big basketball. They have a thing where it's like the castaways. And Bob Denver's wife plays a character who's like the secretary of Thurston Howell the Fourth and Lovey. Because they have this empire or whatever, and she's like their secretary. And their big shtick is, everybody's got to have an appointment to see Mr. Howell and Lovey or whatever. So she's on the team too. So, it's entertaining. I remember that being on. I don't know if I watched it live, but I do remember it being on. The copy I watched was sourced from like a 2000s cable showing, I believe. But again, for some reason, not that easy to find. Uh-huh. But it was kind of nice to revisit the Gilligan's Island and to see the Globetrotters. Scatman Crothers is doing a lot of the work in that, but you still see, they're showing off their personality. They're very good on it. Kind of the same kind of deal. Yeah, entertaining. Stretched out probably as long as you could stretch that whole thing out into a TV movie length. I think it's like an hour and a half.
Just an aside, Martin Landau has got to be one of the most fascinating ups and downs of an actor.
Yeah, how about it?
But so one of the other things, before we maybe get to the thing you alluded to, but in the playlist I enjoyed was like a 16-minute Meadowlark Lemon teaching geography video.
I actually have not watched that yet.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
Okay, I will.
You'd be happy to know when he's holding a globe, it's a basketball.
Ah, yes.
There are probably lots of things to say about him, but he's very good on camera.
He is, yeah. And he was like, of all the stars, he was the big star of during this era. He was the one you associated with the Globetrotters.
However, the exposure came, I think I was already aware of them by the time the cartoon got re-aired and he wasn't around anymore. So then I was like, well, who's this guy? Why is this? Who's Meadowlark Lemon? He's not.
Ah, that's interesting.
And now I'm just reading, like, I guess the Clown Prince of Basketball gets passed from different members. So I always, I remembered Geese Osby being the Clown Prince of Basketball, but I guess Meadowlark was before he was, and then I think Lou Dunbar was later, and I just remember that phrase, the Clown Prince Prince of Basketball.
Yeah, big tradition. I think Goose Tatum was the first one to really, really be the innovator and was first one to be compared to, like Howard Cosell. Wasn't he comparing them to like Emmett Kelly and the classic clowns?
Right. Yeah.
Of legend. But yeah, it started with Goose Tatum and then went up to Meadowlark. So that's interesting. So for you weren't used to Meadowlark as a Globetrotter.
No.
Do you
Not
remember like being aware of Meadowlark at all?
No.
Okay.
But then he stood out, but also that name is kind of hard to forget.
Right.
I don't know why that was, but it was.
Because there's a lot of probably around the same era. There's in the playlist he did some commercials, like he did a big Burger King commercial.
Yeah.
In commercials where he wasn't billed as being a Globetrotter, but it was just like Meadowlark Lemon, like he was his own celebrity in his own right.
Apparently making a lot of money.
Yeah, and he was on. I don't know if you happen to watch any of this, but he was a regular on Hello Larry for its second season. Hello Larry, the infamous Different Strokes spinoff that didn't work, but with McLean Stevenson, and in the second season, and I was like, well, that's random. And according to Wikipedia, and I have no reason to doubt Wikipedia in this one, it was a ploy to bring in African American viewers who are used to watching Different Strokes, trying to get kind of that appeal to there. So he was playing Meadowlark Lemon, and he was in most every episode probably, but I guess his thing was he owned like a sporting goods store.
Okay.
And I just watched one season 2 episode to see him on it, and he's very good in it. He only has like one scene, and you kind of wish there was more of him.
And of course he's in the Fish That Saved Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Is it that or?
Yeah, there was Fish That Saved Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And he's not playing Meadowlark Lemon.
No. I don't even know if he's playing basketball.
No, he's like a.
What's the point of that?
He's like a reverend or something.
Yeah.
In a basketball movie.
Right.
So, but he was definitely the big star, and I think he differentiated himself. I won't get into all the details, but the book that I read kind of made clear that there was some friction between him and the other Globetrotters. He didn't side with them on things I think they were trying to like unionize or at least like bargain more, and he kind of put the kibosh on that by not going along with them. And also he kind of wanted all the routines to be built around him. So whereas all like Goose Tatum was all about improvising and like playing to the crowd on a given night, Meadowlark was more about set routines. And I think the other Globetrotters got a little frustrated because everything had to be precise, or he would get on them if they deviated from the script.
But then in that Real Sports interview, he's like, well, I was the only one showing up early and doing promotion. And
yeah, I mean,
it could be,
both, all that can be true for sure.
Yes, that's right. But I could see that being frustrating.
Yeah.
On their side.
Right.
Why does he get more attention?
I think, I think he was treated as first among equals for sure. Curly, he was very visible too, though, and I think he stood out because of his own talent, his appearance and everything. But if you ask most people to name a Globetrotter from the era, I don't know, it might be pretty close between Meadowlark and Curly because of Curly's presence on the cartoons too. I think in Meadowlark not being there and that gap there, maybe Curly would be as well known as Meadowlark. I don't know.
Yeah. So the other thing is Love Boat, which we both watched.
Yeah, and apparently only one Love Boat appearance, and wish there were more.
Yeah,
but it would strain credibility, I'm sure, to have them on.
I mean, I guess they would have to, as long as they acknowledge that they've been there before.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's the Globetrotters again.
Right.
Not, more like a Charo thing where, oh, she's back.
Or, it would be more credible if they were on the boat specifically as part of the scheduled entertainment.
Yes.
And they had prepared to have a basketball game on the boat.
Boy, you got to think playing basketball on a boat is difficult.
Yeah.
Even a big boat.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think when they do in that episode, they're docked. Mm-hmm. But on the cartoon, they're not. Super Globetrotters, they're not.
That's right.
I think we can skip the details of the other stories. One of them is incredibly icky.
Yes.
to say the least. But it says, season 7?
Yeah, I think it was about that. I think it was 1980. Was it 84?
I think so, yeah.
I think so, yeah. I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was the 7th season.
So I know their story's called Hoopla. The other ones that's like Aunt Emma something, and I don't know. Things that shouldn't be shown on TV. That's the other one, right?
You're going to get people really curious
I know,
about
that. Yeah. Well, if you're going to watch it, I think you need to go in blind.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need the same.
I agree. Same reaction.
Yeah.
And let us know, and then we'll tell you our reactions.
Yeah. But the Globetrotters part, so that I know it's Curly and
Lou Dunbar.
Lou Dunbar, yeah. I think Twiggy Sanders. I'm not sure. But there's only 5 of them. So some guy Isaac knew in high school, Skeet, happens to be on the boat. They're going to, he's promoting a Globetrotters game in Puerto Vallarta. It's clear he's a bit of a schemer. a scammer. Isaac thinks he's up to something and doesn't seem to particularly like him from their interactions in high school.
Yeah, no, he's very wary of him, and
He doesn't believe it's the Globetrotters at first. Yeah, it's funny. He's like, yeah, if they're the Globetrotters, I'm Magic Johnson. But they do show up. But they're not happy with Skeet because he hasn't paid them the $2,000 advance that he promised them. And then it turns out he booked them and himself all in the same cabin with 2 beds.
yeah,
And he's really worried he thinks they're going to throw him overboard.
right.
But Isaac, he's like, well, he shows them they're on wherever the pool is, whatever deck that is. Is it the pool deck, or is that
The Lido deck.
is that the Lido deck? I don't know. They're by the pool. Isaac's working the bar there, and he's like, well, and all these people are around them. He's like, people in the boat would buy tickets. We're going to be stopped there anyway, and so he sells a bunch of tickets, and then they get a phone call, short a ship,
Yeah.
call that the arena is flooded, and he doesn't know what to do. Isaac said, well, you got to give the people their money back. And they end up having a game between the Globetrotters and the ship crew, which of course is our stars, not any possible basketball players that might be.
No. Yeah.
And they make a bet, like if all they have to do is score, and if they score, I think the Globetrotters will pay Skeet $100, and if they don't score, then he's got to be their ball boy for a year.
Yeah, that's right.
And I like this is kind of like the cartoon that the Globetrotters are not this giant organization. It's kind of a shoestring operation. They're world famous, but it's still.
Yeah, Skeet is played by Daryl Igus, who was on Fridays.
Okay.
He's actually pretty likable in this.
Yeah.
Like you described, he's a hustler, but he doesn't really turn you off or anything like that. He's likable enough, possibly because he's fearing for his life.
Yeah.
And they have a nice little thing. It's kind of a running thing where the Globetrotters make playful threats at him and stuff like that. So that kind of thing going on through the episode.
Yes.
But he definitely does not want to be their ball boy for a year.
No. And it is funny to see the crew playing basketball.
Yeah.
Half court, of course, because they have to do it in the dining room. But, and they get their points because they substitute Vicky in for Captain Stubing.
Yeah, the ringer is Vicky.
Yeah, and then they use, they kind of use a version of the Globetrotters' big finale move, right?
Yeah.
That she ends up, Doc hoists her on his shoulders and she puts a basket in. So, a lot of those clips they would end with like metal arc on someone's shoulders. I mean, he dunked, but still.
Right.
And earlier scene there, like at dinner, they do a little stage show where they do their ball handling thing where they're in a circle and passing the ball all around, which is always fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're like, there's a scene where they're at the table, like tossing a roll around or something.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it's entertaining. Do you think the Globetrotters tanked that game at the end? Do you think they lost on purpose?
They
They didn't lose.
They
let Vicky score on purpose.
Yeah, I don't know. The filming of that scene was a little unclear.
Yeah.
Like, did she really sneak past him? And
yeah. And she comes in.
There was someone who was creating a diversion, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think she comes in for Captain Stubing. Yeah.
Yes, because she's sneaky.
He's gassed.
Yeah, he's.
It's like, oh, you got to go in for me, Vicky.
Yeah.
He's had it, but he's game.
Yeah.
It is funny to see them in there. Yeah, so it's Isaac, Doc,
Gopher, Julie, and Captain Stubing.
Right.
In sweatpants.
Yeah.
What do they got? The Princess Pirates, I think, is.
Yeah. That's right. But they put this game together pretty quickly.
Yep.
And get uniforms and impressive job.
Build a basketball court.
Yeah, that's right.
I assumed there must have been a goal somewhere on board already, but
yeah, so you can shoot baskets.
Yeah,
but it's a fun story. Kind of like, so this was probably just past the Globetrotters pop culture peak,
right?
But still still relevant, and it's just I love the fact that they were on the Love Boat. Just do.
None of them find love.
No, they weren't. That was a non-romantic storyline there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they find their love of basketball again. Yeah. I don't know what.
Yes, the love of the sport.
But they give everybody their money back still because they realize that still wasn't much of a game.
Yeah, and it was
like 184-2 or something.
Yeah. And it was an amateurish effort too to collect the money. I mean, just going around like selling it and just literally just taking cash from people, going around the ship and the dining. That would have been a logistical nightmare to give the money back.
Yeah, and then hiding it in Sid Caesar's painting.
Yeah. So yeah, I enjoyed that. I mean, and it seems like I don't know of any like big appearances by the Globetrotters after that. It seems somehow appropriate that if that's the case, that Love Boat would be like kind of like the end of the big run.
Yeah. I guess there's too many of them to have them show up all over the place, like on sitcoms. And
Yeah, that would pose some challenges, and unless you built it around the whole thing around them, or if you just did like a quick cameo. Yeah, I think, and I would like to see that White Shadow episode. But
I would
think
too.
that's one of the other big ones. I'd love to see White Shadow actually. Put that back on somewhere. But yeah, I enjoyed them, and good spokesmen, and you know the at some point, regardless of the clowning, and that I guess that they kind of addressed that in that Real Sports clip.
Yeah,
And Brian Gumbel was real cranky about them right from the get go, isn't he?
yeah. I didn't. They called them like a vaudeville act, but the way he said vaudeville made it sound like that was a diss. And
Right. He clearly was on the side of them, like being uncomfortable with the racial overtones.
Yeah.
Which I think were not as explicit, you know, as the time went on, but there was definitely some of that. But there was some division, I think, among people as to the appropriateness of it. But they say that their thing was to entertain people, and they did that.
Yeah.
You know, people of all ages, family friendly, a reliable act, and
It's all ages, all races, all everything's.
And they were. It's funny because I think we named like a lot of the big appearances, but it just seemed like they were, even proportionally, that they were bigger stars even than that.
Yeah.
Because I think part of it is they were Saturday morning fixtures, you know, for a while. They were on, you know, guest appearances. They were in commercials, and they were on Wide World of Sports, you know, as a perennial. So that's a lot of different areas, you know, a lot of chances for exposure, in addition to seeing the commercials of them coming to your local area, maybe.
Yes. Yeah, and some of those you had in there, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this.
Yeah.
Like the kind of semi-animated one.
Yeah, and the ubiquitous Sweet Georgia Brown theme song playing.
Yep.
You know, you hear that and you think of the Globetrotters, you think of basketball right away.
I was in Target yesterday, and on a clearance shelf they had some red, white, and blue basketballs. Like, I was tempted to get one just to bring it here. But I mean, it was only $7. Mm-hmm. That seemed pretty good for a basketball.
Yeah.
But I already have a basketball that I'm not using. So I figured I didn't need another one.
Well, I love.
Maybe I should.
I know that there's a Harlem Globetrotter Funko. I'd love to see like a.
Is it just a
Yeah. Just with a Globetrotter uniform and, you know, and a basketball. But I would love to see like starting lineup style figures of Meadowlark and Curly and Geese and, you know, the guys from this era.
Right.
I'd love those. And I think they probably, I don't remember a lot of merchandising, but I think there were like maybe some occasional comic books and maybe some like cheap toys every now and then, but I don't think like a ton of it. It's just surprising. But there must have been, I'll have to look into that more. There must have been more than I'm remembering, like coloring books at least and stuff like that.
I didn't think so.
But
at least things that you could sell at the games.
Right. I just don't think I had any of it.
Sure, a program. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of, not Harlem Globetrotter stuff, but in the popcorn machine had the commercials. And there were a couple questionable toys in that, I thought.
Yeah?
Well, there was one where it was like, you know, it was like for kind of matchboxy cars, but you like shot them out of guns.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Really? And then some other thing where you're like, I mean, it was more a contained thing, but you're like shooting targets with ball bearings.
Yeah.
Also didn't seem super safe.
Yeah. Anything firing things.
Yeah.
is
like metal objects.
Is going to be problematic. Yeah. So there's some other things that like they did a couple of movies in the 50s. There's one that's hard to find. It's supposed to be very good.
The one with Dorothy Dandridge.
Yeah, 1951, and it actually has some of those like early Globetrotters in there. And then there's another one with like Sidney Poitier, I think is the later man, called like Go Man Go, and that's also in the 50s. But yeah, I think for a while they just were in newsreels and you know you'd come to your town, but then at some point they became TV stars more than just like a basketball act. They were legitimate TV stars, but a lot of times just as an entity. And that's kind of one thing that I sort of miss about that is just like the charm of it. You talked about them sort of being like a ragtag operation, and just this concept that they really were just like a handful of guys traveling around maybe with a manager. And as a kid, I bought that. That's how I thought of them. I didn't think of them as like a big corporate entity owned by Metro Media or anybody. Just thought of them as just guys that went around playing basketball.
That's right.
And goodwill ambassadors for the sport and making people happy. And they did that for a long time. I mean, I guess continue to do it.
Yeah.
You know, under the right circumstances, I'd see them again at some point today.
Yeah. At least watch them on TV.
Yeah. I'm sure it's a very professional. Again, it's probably a lot of it is very standardized, but I'm sure they put on a good show.
And if you haven't seen it, assuming they're still not doing throwing confetti buckets at people.
I'll bet they do that one.
I bet they do.
Yeah.
Wasn't there one like they brought out a ladder or something? I didn't see that in any of these, but I seem to remember that
one. But it sounds familiar. Sounds sure it's something they do. Just like those Globetrotters that pull out ladders.
Yep. All right, that's the Harlem Globetrotters. Let us know who you rank higher, the Harlem Globetrotters or Evel Knievel.
Yeah. Oh.
Or those are the only two pop culture athlete combinations I can think of.
Showmen extraordinaire.
That's right.
Definitely.
What? And I maybe that's something to research. Was there ever a worldwide of sports with both on the same episode?
Ooh. Boy, you'd think they would. Maybe outside of an anniversary show, I doubt it.
Or did, maybe Evel Knievel jumped the Harlem Globetrotters?
That'd be cool. You'd think they'd space them out, though.
Yeah.
Maximize it. But yeah, boy.
Okay, yeah, let us know.
And if you think we put on a good show, let us know.
That's right.
You can visit our Facebook group.
Uh-huh.
Email us at mailbag@battleofthenetworkshows.com.
Correct. And let us know if you can spin a basketball on your finger. I can't.
No, I never could do anything like that.
I could kind of dribble between my legs around my back. That's about it.
What about, my favorite shot is my favorite regular thing is, and Curly does this a lot, he just bounces a ball off his butt or something like that as a pass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's good.
I like that.
Did he do that in real life or just on the cartoon?
Yeah, well, but yeah, he let it roll, like the thing would roll down his back and, do a little bump pass.
Right, yeah.
To somebody.
They stretch some of the traveling and double dribbling rules, I think, a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. But then again, they do that in modern basketball.
That's right, yeah. Another thing the Globetrotters invented.
Yeah.
The 3-step layup.
Yes.
Ball handling, slam dunking, and
disregard for conventional traveling rules.
That's right.
This episode brought to you by the Harlem Globetrotters popcorn machine, when you want your popcorn handled with style. This episode also brought to you by the Meadow Resort and Spa. Have a lark at the Meadow. This episode also brought to you by Ralph, the Clown Prince of Names. Join us next time for another exciting episode of Battle of the Network shows. Learn more, leave feedback, and suggest future episodes at battleofthenetworkshows.com. Follow us on Twitter at BatNetShows and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Battle of the Network Shows.